Hello, fellow EUC people. I have been paying attention to the Telegram forum, and there's been some discussion about the seats with the spring kind of shock absorber. It just so happens, thanks to Amazon and Marty's links, I got one of these in the mail a couple days ago, and I've modeled it in SolidWorks, and I'm going to try to see how I can incorporate it onto my Sherman, which is really the only wheel I've really tried to sit on so far. I've done so poorly and sometimes in a lot of discomfort. That hard yoga block and with no shocks and your privates being there. When you go over some bumps and stuff, I'm like, this can't be how everybody's doing it. So in any event, I'm lucky. I got my spring thing here for 21.51 tax, but free shipping. Now these aren't even going to be in for a week or so, and they've gone up to close to 27 bucks, which sucks. So yeah, so one of Marty's links is dead or just not available on Amazon, and then this one just went up. But in any event, kind of where I'm going and what I wanted to talk about a little bit was, some design ideas. So I modeled, that spring thing in SolidWorks. These are like 7 millimeter diameter rods that are then bent around. And from center to center, it's 43 millimeters across, which means with the 7 millimeter diameter, it's 50 millimeters from the outside edge to the outside edge of those rods. So about 50 there, and it's like a 10-degree angle, presumably, so that you know as you put weight and spring down, your seat will become flat. So I modeled that. I modeled this bracket which accepts, those rods on the spring, and then the parallel rods on a seat or saddle, whatever you call it, either a unicycle saddle or a bike saddle. I've modeled this with both the spring and the shock thing, and then even just a part of that bracket, which I'm calling like a dome. And I put them into kind of a loose model of the Sherman, mostly because I have like this frame kind of laid out and an approximation of the shell. I even did this cheesy overlay of the LCD. But kind of the idea is that if I just take like a plate that's about 4 inches wide, 3/8 of an inch thick, and however long that is, I think it's less than 10 inches long, and I bolt or weld a bracket on it, and these brackets have these radiuses in it which basically hold the 7/8 inch diameter frame, then that will pivot, meaning this whole thing comes up. Then I thought a nice, maybe foam covered block or foam block or something could come under there. It turns out the way I have this modeled, that's about 8 millimeters, which is about 5/16 of an inch thick. And right now that would just kind of come down and land partly over the LCD, partly on top of the shell, partly on the trolley handle, but it shouldn't hit or engage the button and the trolley handle. And that might be an early, just quick and dirty way of getting something that pivots out of the way, but that allows me to attach this spring to it. So that dome, basically, I'm calling this the dome, has a through hole, and then there'd be a tapped hole, in the metal, and one of these socket cap screws. These are 10 millimeter, I think, by 1 millimeter pitch, but a shortish 18 to 20 millimeter long cap screw tapped into that plate, in two places would be all I need to make, an adjustable spring that goes there. And then this is just the stock piece there. The cap screw goes through. That piece there was like, it's like a nut. It's kind of a weird or interesting nut. And as you can see here, the seat that I got from GrabCat or something, I just made sure that it had the 43 millimeter on center parallel rods in the under the seat. It wasn't exactly like that. It was close, but in order for all my parts to fit perfectly, I made it 7 millimeters in OD and 43 apart. And now that is a sliding mechanism. So not surprisingly, this is like a perfect side view. That seat's at basically like a 10-degree angle because of the 10-degree spring. And if I wanted more of an angle, I don't think I would. It'd be really easy just to make a bigger block, and then I have a bigger angle. And then if I want to go the other way, I have more of an issue. In theory, what I would be doing is this, getting this plate to go down. But really, since I can't really go down much more, I can't get much thinner with that foam pad, I have to make this bracket higher, which would be, easy to do. And then if you can imagine, the bracket is higher, and that puts this part of the seat and spring level. That might be a good, comfortable sort of thing. So I'm trying to get something that's really simple. This ultimately doesn't really adjust in height, although it does allow me to move the seat forward and backwards and even adjust where on the spring that seat is, which will ultimately adjust how bouncy or how much of a shock absorber it is. You can put it on a more rigid section closer to that bend, or overhanging more, in which case it's springy. And so there's some adjustability, but mostly what I'm looking for in this very early model is simplicity and security, and to just see, okay, what's this seat like at that height and at about 10 degrees, knowing that I'm probably going to end up wanting to make the seat a little bit flatter and higher. Something about like a squatty seat and having to really like bend your knees tends to put you like on your toes with not a lot of contact with the bottoms of your feet on the pedals. And I don't think that that's really how you ride. I'm kind of amazed at how well people ride seated. Sitting gym is nothing short of amazing in my book, but a lot of guys who are like zipping past down the road or going like uphill on a trail and they just decide to like sit uphill on a trail. I'm like, okay. But I guess, when I do it and I get more comfortable, I'll figure out when I want to stand and when I want to sit. Right now, my only choice is to stand for long periods of time. And sometimes that's like 60 miles, and your knees can definitely feel it when you're done. But in any event, I'm happy to take some suggestions and for people to let me know what they've found out. But some of these parts shouldn't be too difficult to make. And I think at the end of the day, you kind of need to make something that'll hold on to that spring clamp, something that'll hold on to the seat, and that something then has that additional feature of being able to tilt and then lock to get seat angles. Height is really easy. Making these things slide back and forth, all that's pretty easy. But the thing that's gonna be like the most simple, straightforward, flexible design that's easy to just dial in, easy wrench access, all that. That allows you to adjust the seat angle. That I think is going to be where the need for a really elegant solution comes in. So in any event, hit me up on Telegram or put some comments if this is a YouTube video that I make public. But I've got some great spiked plates, and people are digging them, and I'm getting a lot of positive feedback from that, and I love them. But then my next big, Sherman modification is going to be a seat, and then I'll come back to some pads and stuff like that. But definitely want to learn to sit like the masters. Okay, Chris Chappett out.